Story 1. I worked at a kid's birthday party place for a couple of years in high school. So many kids would cry because they fell over, bumped their arm, etc. Never anything bad. I'd say something like, "Can you shake your foot around? Does it feel better? How about jumping in a circle? All right, we're going to blow on your hands so it feels better." And then ask if they are ready to play again. Works like a charm. Also, bandages for little boo-boos. They think they are healed and get right back to being happy little kiddos. Story 2. Your perception of bad luck. The human brain is predisposed to remember bad experiences more vividly than the good ones. Thus, for example, you may say your luck is always awful at tolls, when in reality you only get stuck in traffic 20 to 50% of the time. Story 3. When I worked and trained in technical support, our agents would always get pushback from customers when we asked them to power cycle their phones, which 9 times out of 10 would fix their issue. So, I had them tell the customer to read some numbers off the back of the battery, which we absolutely did not need. Then we told them we refreshed a few systems, and they put their battery back in, and it was all fixed. Alternatively, when batteries couldn't be removed, we'd tell them that if the phone was powered on while we did the update, it could ruin their subscriber identity module card. So they'd make sure to power off their phone. I'd do nothing. They'd turn it back on, and it worked great. But if I had told them to power cycle their phones? No way. Story 4. So I'm sure this has happened to other people, but this question just reminded me of my principal. During meetings and such, he uses the school auditorium, and most of the time I, a senior now at the school, have to run the sound and lights. He's extremely annoying about it and always asks for his microphone to be turned up when, in reality, he's already extremely loud and will bust the speakers. I just pretend to turn it up and ask him if it's good. And he speaks and says, "That's perfect, thank you." I swear he thinks I'm doing an amazing job and would bring me a Coke or something for dealing with the meetings half of the day. Greatest placebo to use against others that I've done. Story 5. Do commissioned creative work. If I deliver on the same or next day, people don't think I spent enough time on it. If I wait 3 days to deliver, people are happy because they assume I worked on their project nonstop, even though I was done a day or two prior. Story 6. Loading spinners on web pages. I once had a user complain to me that a web application was too slow, though it was pretty fast. I tested him by making the animation spinner rotate much faster. He went to my boss to praise me for how much faster the web application was. I was using spin.js. Story 7. I install semi-truck bumpers. 90% of the time, a customer will say it looks off by 1/8 of an inch. I'll make a noise with the impact gun on a bolt and say, "How's that?" "Yeah, it looks great." Nothing moved whatsoever. Some guys are extremely critical, I guess. Story 8. As a former lifeguard, I can assure you that whatever cleanup you see lifeguards doing after someone vomits in the pool is almost certainly just for show. There isn't really anything you can do. You just let the filter and chlorine take care of it and pretend to clean to please the suburban moms. Story 9. I sold Christmas trees as a kid in junior and senior high school. I learned a trick for super fussy customers who had me hold up multiple trees to show them. After the 10th or so tree, I'd yell to my coworker, "Hey Mike, if they don't want this one, put it aside for me. Nicest tree I've seen this year." Worked like a charm. Story 10. A lot of these psychology tricks and tips you'll see online in general have no scientific proof, but they work because everyone thinks they do. This is how I actually live my life. I just tell myself things like these and use a placebo effect to change my mindset or mood. You all should try it. It works. Story 11. How long it takes a Coinstar to process and count coins and return a receipt. Finishes quickly. So quickly that people are skeptical of the accuracy. So a fake delay with fake counting noises was built in, giving people more confidence in the results. Story 12. Not sure if it's really placebo, but there is research done on how a car door should sound when you close it. A flat and boring pank sound would do just fine. But a lot of people find that soft, plush, and yet firm shrumph sound reassures them the door is closed. Someone please do a better job here describing car doors closing because mine is not very good. Story 13. That free shipping is a better deal. It generally means they have added the cost into the product instead, but you feel like you have gotten a better deal. Story 14. When cake mixes first came out, you only had to add water to them, but too many housewives felt like that was cheating and would not buy cake mixes. So the cake mix companies added another step, the eggs. It worked. Apparently, the cracking and adding of the eggs to the batter was enough to make it feel more homemade, and cake mixes became extremely popular. Story 15. I'm not sure if it still does this, but at one time Google Docs intercepted the Ctrl+S shortcut and briefly changed the cursor to the thinking cursor, like an hourglass or beach ball, depending on your computer. You don't need to save your Google Docs. They save every tiny change on the server, but people are used to doing it. Story 16. I saw an article about how Apple Music made random selection less random because people would often complain that the same artist would follow after a song. They created an algorithm to not select a song by the same artist until after some other songs had played. Story 17. The exaggerated sounds of some vacuum cleaners, microwaves, and cars make them sound powerful. The loading screens on some applications make it seem like they are doing something complex. Story 18. Your permanent record. Colleges care more about what you say on Twitter and Facebook than what you said to Dakota in 3rd grade. The only time your permanent record means something is if you transfer within the district. Story 19. Bubbles in cleaning products. Early formulations of soap long ago used to naturally form suds. Newer formulations can clean better but don't naturally produce suds, as the bubbling was an incidental side effect that doesn't actually have any bearing on cleaning. When these newer soaps were first introduced, people complained they didn't work because they didn't make loads of bubbles. So the manufacturers started adding a chemical solely to generate bubbles that didn't actually help with the cleaning at all, and all the complaints stopped. To this day, the association of bubbles equaling clean is strong enough that they still do it. Basically, all cleaning products, including toothpaste, foam up when used, and almost without exception, the foam is entirely marketing. Story 20. It is not uncommon to have a loading screen or icon placed in queries, sometimes just because the average user doesn't expect it to be this quick. Intentional lag can occur on websites when signing up or during payment processing. Source: I write code, sometimes that works. Story 21. Airport security. Homeland Security's own inspectors were able to get illegal items through Transportation Security Administration checkpoints 70% of the time. Story 22. That minty fresh, zesty clean feeling you get from toothpaste started as a marketing strategy and caught on, and now almost all toothpaste is mint because we associate the minty freshness with cleanliness. Edit. Ah shucks. Silver? Thanks, guys. It's my first. I had no idea so many people hated mint. Story 23. Milky or opaque white moisturizing body wash. It's the same as the clear ones. It's not more moisturizing, it just has white pigments in it. But because it's not clear, people associate it with lotion and think it's better for the skin. I'm not saying moisturizing body wash doesn't work, but you shouldn't assume something is more moisturizing just because it's white. A friend of mine who works at a big cosmetics company said the only difference in the formula of their normal and cream cleansers is white pigment. Instead of the color, check for gentle cleansing agents and ingredients like panthenol or oils. Story 24. Wine prices. Studies have shown that people think wine tastes better if it costs more, but when they do a blind taste test, very few people, even those who are wine drinkers, not everyone, there are some people who can tell, but it's a pretty small percentage, can distinguish between a relatively cheap $15 to $20 bottle and expensive wine. Story 25. Turkey doesn't have enough tryptophan to make you sleepy. You're most likely sleepy because you ate too much and your body's in rest and digest mode. Edit to add. It's a placebo when you eat a meal that includes turkey and say you're tired, but eat a meal with the same calories and conditions with chicken instead, and you don't feel tired. It's conditioned into American culture because of overeating at American Thanksgiving. Story 26. Drinking Canada Dry Ginger Ale helps with an upset tummy. They were sued because their ginger ale has no ginger in it. And that was the only thing that helped when I had the stomach flu as a kid. I got the stomach flu a lot too. Story 27. When my younger brother was a kid, the doctor told him that sitting on a grocery bag would keep him from getting sick in the car. The real trick here, of course, is that if he does get sick, he has a bag to throw up into. He's in his 20s now, and he still doesn't believe me that it's just a trick, because it worked. Story 28. I install commercial audio and video systems. On bigger, more involved jobs like stadiums and arenas, we have audio and video consultants who don't work for my company but are a big link in the chain as far as designing and adjusting the finished system. I don't know how many times I've been up in an 80-foot boom lift and they want the azimuth or down angle of a speaker adjusted by some ridiculously small amount. So you get back up there, bang a couple of wrenches on the speaker, and don't actually move anything. How's that? Oh yeah, that sounds better. Works every time. Story 29. Using gas with a higher octane rating than what the manufacturer recommends. My car runs so much better on premium than regular. The octane rating of gasoline is not a measurement of how much energy is in the fuel. It is a measurement of how resistant it is to pre-detonation. If the manufacturer says to use 87, putting 91 or 93 into the vehicle makes no difference. The car cannot tell a higher octane fuel is being used. It can only detect if a lower octane fuel might be used by virtue of the knock sensor. If the sensor detects knocking or pinging, the computer will retard the timing to eliminate the knock. Pulling timing can reduce the power the engine generates. The fuel map the computer uses to manage your engine is made for a specific octane rating. In high-performance cars, the compression is higher and the timing is more aggressive. Therefore, high octane is necessary. If your car says it requires premium, use it. If it says recommended, regular can be used unless the vehicle is under heavy load. Don't spend 15% more on gas because your car feels like it runs better on premium. Story 30. When I repair a smartphone or computer, and if something takes me 10 minutes or less, I usually stall because the customer doesn't want to pay the agreed amount and wants to haggle because I did it too fast. So I let them wait 25 to 30 minutes, and they will pay happily. Story 31. When I was working a catering gig at my university, everyone eating off fancy plates at sit-down dinners in the ballrooms, fundraisers, receptions, and every other formal dinner occasion that might be held at a university, were eating the same bulk commercial-grade food that was served in the dorms. They'd tell us to give their compliments to the chef. Lady, the only difference between your $40 fancy reception plate pork chop and my $4 cafeteria pork chop was that mine came on a paper plate. And yes, I do happen to know where the chef gets his choice cuts, Aramark Food Services, just like everyone else. But you put that stuff on a delicate plate with gold on the edges, they think it's the most wonderful thing they've eaten all year. Story 32. A lot of the cold prevention medications like Cold FX or something similar were tested and often found to be not much more than a sugar pill. Also, those vitamin gummy bears were studied in school and are often not much different than regular gummy bears. There are often not as many vitamins in them as they claim. Most of the ones that say they are good for hair and nails reportedly work, but that's because it's the gelatin that's beneficial for your hair and nails. I've never had one of my comments get so many responses like this. Just want to clarify for the gummies. There are definitely some that are better than others, not sure which brands. But my understanding is that it's usually better to take an actual vitamin pill or eat food that is higher in the vitamin you are looking for. Many of the gummies contain some sort of processed sugar, so they're seen as a less healthy option. I guess you don't have to completely write them off, but there are definitely many of them that are misleading people. Story 33. For men, shaving their beards makes it grow thicker. This is not the case. Shaving only makes all hair grow at the same rate, giving the illusion that more new hair is growing when, in reality, it is not. Yes, this is true with all hair, and women also go through similar situations of being confronted with people telling them fallacies about hair. I had only the thought of beard thickness when I typed that. Story 34. The roller coaster clicking noise on the lift hill isn't necessary anymore. It used to be needed to prevent trains from rolling back if the chain snaps, but now technology has advanced and it could be silent, but it's perfect preparation for the ride. Story 35. The idea that drinking orange juice shortly before going to bed will keep you from sleeping because of the vitamin C. The same people who swear that it works like coffee on them eat raw tomatoes for dinner all summer long and never complain about sleeping issues, even though tomatoes contain more vitamin C than a glass of orange juice. Story 36. Homeopathy. My mom is a homeopath and I don't subscribe to it at all. but I've seen her help many people with minor to moderate afflictions. While the medicine definitely doesn't work, the patients believe it does. Along with the fact that sitting down for an hour with someone who listens to all of your problems and ailments in detail and takes much more interest in their life than a normal general practitioner would, leads to them having belief that they'll get better. My belief is that the psychological help they receive often helps with problems, especially ones that are exacerbated by stress. Also, I'll note that any homeopath who isn't a careless person does not try to treat mental illness or life-threatening conditions that require real medical care, and will tell the patient this.